Episode 1. The series begins with a flash forward. Oliver Queen floats helplessly in the vast ocean, barely clinging to consciousness. A remote island looms in the background, hinting at the isolation and trials that await him. We then shift to the past, where Oliver lives a carefree and reckless life in Starling City. As the wealthy and charming son of business tycoon Robert Queen and his strong-willed wife Moira, in this version of the story, Oliver has a younger sister, Thea Queen, with whom he shares a deep, loving bond. The two siblings clearly care for one another, offering a glimpse of Oliver's softer side beneath the arrogance. Oliver's best friend Matthew is also introduced, a charismatic but duplicitous figure who hides a dark secret. Unbeknownst to Oliver, Matthew has been stealing money behind his back. Despite this betrayal, he is invited to join Oliver and Robert on a yacht trip, meant to be a getaway from the tension at home. Moira and Robert's marriage is crumbling, marked by constant fighting, and the trip is Robert's attempt to escape the chaos and spend time with his son. However, things take a deadly turn at sea. During the voyage, Matthew confronts Robert and in a moment of violence, kills him. Oliver tries to stop the attack, and in the chaos of their struggle, they accidentally cause the yacht to crash. Both men are thrown overboard into the stormy sea. In the aftermath, only Oliver appears to survive. The episode ends where it began, with Oliver washing up on the shore of the mysterious island, alone and broken. Episode 2. The second episode picks up immediately where the premiere left off. Oliver Queen washes ashore on a seemingly uninhabited island. Disoriented, bruised, and barely able to stand, he stumbles through the unfamiliar wilderness. His first instinct is survival. Find water, get his bearings, and tend to his wounds. There's no sign of his friend or any other survivors from the crash. The episode focuses heavily on Oliver's raw struggle against the environment. We see his privileged upbringing clash with his current situation. He doesn't know how to build a fire, find food, or protect himself from the elements. He's scared, vulnerable, and clearly unprepared. His attempts to make a shelter fail at first, and the weight of isolation begins to sink in. Flashbacks to his life before the crash reveal a man who never had to fend for himself. Now that man is gone. Episode 3. By the start of Episode 3, Oliver has managed to build a crude but functioning shelter using branches, leaves, and bits of wreckage he salvaged. He struggles to catch fish and tries eating unfamiliar plants, some of which make him sick. His hands are blistered, his body battered, and hunger gnaws at him constantly. As the days pass, his mind begins to wander. At night, he starts hearing things: screams in the distance, strange rustling in the trees, whispers carried on the wind. At first, he writes them off as hallucinations brought on by hunger and isolation. He talks to himself. He even imagines conversations with people he left behind. His mind is clearly beginning to fracture under the stress of survival. The third episode culminates in a major turning point. After following one of the strange sounds deeper into the island's interior, Oliver stumbles upon something that changes everything: the edge of what appears to be an old abandoned military base hidden within the jungle. Rusted fences, broken floodlights, and decaying buildings hint that this place once had a purpose. Perhaps still does. The realization is shocking. He's not alone. The screams may not have been in his head after all. Suddenly, the island is no longer just a place of survival. It's a place of mystery and danger. Questions begin to rise. Who else is here? Why is there a military base? And what kind of threat might be waiting inside? Episode 5. Several weeks have passed since Oliver discovered the abandoned base. He spends each night hidden in the shadows, observing it from a distance. The screams continue, some desperate, others muffled, echoing through the trees after nightfall. Each sound chips away at his sanity, but he can't bring himself to walk away. He's convinced someone needs help, or that danger is far closer than he imagined. During the day, Oliver struggles to survive. The small animals he manages to catch, rabbits, birds, and the occasional lizard, are hardly enough to sustain him. His body, while fit and trained from a privileged lifestyle, is beginning to break down. His movements are slower, his limbs weaker, and every step feels heavier than the last. Hunger is no longer just a discomfort, it's a threat. Driven by desperation and instinct, Oliver begins crafting tools. Using vines, sharp stones, and wood, he builds a rudimentary bow and several arrows. It's crude but effective. His first successful hunt, a boar, is a turning point. With real food in his belly and fire in his gut, he begins to regain some of his strength. It's the first time he feels like he has a fighting chance. But the island isn't done testing him. One night, while tracking movement near the base, Oliver is ambushed. A group of armed men, ragged, brutal, and clearly trained, attack without warning. Despite the odds, Oliver uses his newly crafted bow to take them down with precision and speed. It's messy, raw, and instinctive. But it's a victory. As one of the men lies dying, Oliver demands answers. With his last breath, the attacker reveals the truth. The base was once a government research facility, but those days are long gone. Everyone who once worked there was killed. Now the base serves a new purpose: human trafficking. The revelation hits Oliver like a thunderbolt. The screams weren't hallucinations. The island isn't just a prison, it's a hunting ground. The episode ends with Oliver standing over the body, his bow clenched in his hand, the firelight reflecting in his eyes. He's no longer just trying to survive. He's preparing to fight back. Episode 6. Oliver now knows the horrifying truth. What was once a research base is now being used as a hub for human trafficking. His instinct is to storm in and rescue everyone, but he's not naive. Charging in without a plan would mean his death and the death of anyone he tried to save. Instead, Oliver begins to train. Now armed with his bow and arrow, he uses the weeks ahead to hunt regularly and regain his physical strength. Every day brings discipline, sharpening his arrows, improving his aim, mastering stealth. His body heals, hardens, and adapts to the island's brutal demands. The spoiled playboy of Starling City is fading. Something new, more dangerous, is emerging. During one of his nighttime reconnaissance missions near the base, Oliver spots two prisoners making a run for it. They're injured, frightened, and on the verge of being captured. Oliver intervenes, taking down their pursuers with swift, calculated shots. The two escapees, tired but grateful, offer to help him in any way they can. Over the next few days, as Oliver shelters them in his hidden camp, we begin to learn more about the survivors. One is a former tech engineer who was kidnapped while traveling overseas, and the other is a young woman whose brother is still trapped in the base. Their stories are raw and emotional, revealing the reach and cruelty of the trafficking ring. They fuel Oliver's resolve to put an end to it. Together, they begin crafting a plan, not to fight head-on, but to outsmart, disrupt, and sabotage. Oliver sets traps in the jungle, intercepts supply runs, and starts picking off guards silently one by one. He becomes a myth whispered through the trees, something the traffickers can't see, but know is coming. By the end of the episode, one of the survivors, an older man who once worked in logistics for the original research base, gives Oliver a tattered green cloak. "To keep you hidden," he says, "and to remind them that someone's watching." Oliver dons the cloak, pulling the hood over his head. It's rough, makeshift, and far from the iconic suit it will one day become, but it's the beginning. The birth of the man who will one day be known as the Green Arrow. Episode 7. This episode opens not on the island's present, but in the past. We flash back to the night of the shipwreck. The storm is merciless, the waves towering. We see the violent struggle between Oliver and Matthew on board, the confrontation that ended with Robert Queen's death and the boat's destruction. As chaos unfolds, both men are thrown overboard. While Oliver's journey of survival is already known, we now follow his friend's path. Bruised, half-drowned, and alone, he washes ashore on another part of the island. Unlike Oliver, he doesn't have time to build shelter or hunt for food. He's found and captured almost immediately. Dragged into the depths of the jungle, he's thrown into a locked cage deep within the base. We watch his transformation unfold over several brutal months. Beatings, interrogations, starvation. He's treated like livestock, but he's observant, calculating, and eventually, he adapts. Through manipulation, playing on the traffickers' egos, and providing information on how to track and trap others, he slowly gains a sliver of trust. By the midpoint of the episode, we see him in a very different light. He's clean-shaven, clothed, and no longer in chains. Now moving freely through the facility, he's not just surviving, he's blending in, watching, learning, waiting. But we're left uncertain about his true loyalties. Is he just buying time, or has he crossed a line? We get our first look inside the facility from his eyes. Rows of cages, guards rotating in shifts, a black market communication hub, and a cold, organized structure behind the chaos. It's not just a camp, it's a network. Dangerous, expansive, and deadly. Just as we settle into this new perspective, the story catches up to the present. Night falls on the jungle. Explosions erupt. The survivors Oliver is protecting are ambushed. Chaos descends. Oliver, now wearing the green cloak, fights back with precision, leading a counterattack. In the smoke and confusion, two arrows collide midair, one fired by Oliver, the other by an enemy combatant. Both pause, realizing something familiar in the style: the aim. They lock eyes for the first time since the wreck. No words, just shock, recognition, and tension. Matthew, now armed and wearing the trafficker's uniform, stands across from him. The episode ends with that chilling stare down. Episode 8. The episode opens in darkness. Oliver Queen, bloodied and barely conscious, is chained in a dimly lit room. His screams echo through the steel walls as his former best friend, now fully allied with the traffickers, slices a knife across Oliver's chest. It's not just torture, it's personal. Oliver drifts in and out of consciousness as we witness flashbacks to their friendship, carefree nights, trust, and laughter, all now twisted memories that fuel his pain. Hours pass, the torturer returns, smug and cruel, but Oliver, even weakened, is far from broken. As the man leans in for another strike, Oliver lashes out. Using his last reserve of strength, he wraps his legs around the man's neck, violently twisting until the sickening sound of bone snapping fills the room. Oliver stumbles to his feet, bloodied but alive. He retrieves his bow, arrows, and cloak, his symbol, his strength. With each piece of gear he reclaims, the old Oliver Queen dies a little more. What remains is something new, focused, ruthless, determined. Oliver becomes a silent force of vengeance as he moves through the base, eliminating guards with precise shots. He finds the survivors, including the people he once sheltered in the jungle, and helps them escape through the tunnels beneath the facility. It's chaotic and intense, but for a moment, it seems like hope is winning. The last person pulls away. The survivors are free. But just as Oliver prepares to leave, he's ambushed. A massive figure tackles him through a wall. Oliver fights like hell, but he's outnumbered and exhausted. He's slammed against the ground, stripped of his weapons, and dragged back into the heart of the base. The final shot. Oliver, bruised and bound once more, stares defiantly at the enemy surrounding him. He may have fallen again, but this time they know he's a threat, and he's not done yet. Episode 9. The episode opens in a dark, ruined corridor, deep within the facility. Oliver Queen lies bloodied on the floor, struggling to lift his head. Standing over him is Matthew, his former best friend turned betrayer, a loaded gun trembling in his hand. His face is scarred, hardened by time and guilt. Matthew coldly tells Oliver that he's been waiting a long time for this moment, that killing Oliver is the final step in severing his past. But before he can pull the trigger, Oliver lashes out in desperation, kicking the gun from his hand. The weapon clatters across the floor as the two men collide in a brutal, desperate fistfight. Old friendship is buried beneath fury and betrayal as they battle through the decaying structure. Just when it seems Oliver is about to lose, he finds one last surge of strength and hurls Matthew into a collapsing shaft, sending him plunging further into the facility's depths. Gasping for air, Oliver stumbles out of the building just in time to see a helicopter preparing for takeoff. But salvation is not so easy. Several armed guards burst from the base, opening fire. Oliver dives for cover, but many of the remaining survivors aren't so lucky. Chaos erupts on the landing pad as Oliver, using a stolen firearm and his bow and arrows, fights back. One by one, he takes down the soldiers in a tense, drawn-out battle. He's outnumbered, outgunned, but no longer the man who washed up on the island. When the dust settles, Oliver stands alone, bloodied, panting, victorious. Cut to several years later. Time has passed. The island is quiet once again, and Oliver Queen is now a shadow of his former self. Stronger, smarter, but deeply changed. His hair is longer, his face more weathered, his eyes darker. He hunts like a ghost through the jungle, surviving on instinct. It's been 3 years since the wreck, but to him, it feels like a lifetime. We see flashes of his isolation, talking to himself, carving notches into trees, crafting arrows with care, staying alive because it's all he has left. His sanity teeters at the edge, but something still drives him, a refusal to give up. Then one morning, while tracking prey through the dense undergrowth, Oliver is ambushed. A mysterious figure strikes him down from behind. His world spins, and everything goes dark once more. Oliver Queen awakens on the cold sand of the island's shore. Bloodied and bruised, his arms bound tightly with rope. His head throbs and the taste of iron fills his mouth. Towering over him is Matthew, very much alive, grinning with cruel satisfaction. Matthew reveals that he never died in the fall, that he's been watching Oliver from the shadows ever since he escaped the base. For years, he's observed Oliver's descent into madness, his survival, his moments of hope and hopelessness. But now it ends. He wants to destroy whatever shred of humanity Oliver has left. We learn that Oliver hasn't given up completely. He's been working on a radio, scavenged from old wreckage, hoping to reach someone, anyone. He's also set up a signal trap, a campfire rigged with explosives that, when shot by an arrow, will ignite high enough to catch the attention of passing boats. Matthew begins to beat Oliver mercilessly with the butt of his gun. The hours drag on. Oliver's face is swollen, blood dripping from his mouth, but he doesn't break. He doesn't beg. He doesn't lose himself. What Matthew doesn't know is that Oliver, through sheer will, has slipped one wrist free. He clutches a nearby jagged rock, hidden in the sand behind his back. As Matthew readies for the final blow, Oliver strikes, slamming the rock into Matthew's head. A savage, brutal fight erupts. Matthew draws his pistol and fires, but Oliver deflects his aim. Most of the bullets are wasted, ricocheting into the sand and trees, but not all. Weakened from days without food, Oliver fights with desperation. He uses traps and tricks, a fallen tree, a rope snare, his surroundings, to wear Matthew down. But Matthew is still dangerous. With a scream, he charges Oliver, one of Oliver's own arrows clutched like a knife. In a blur of movement, Oliver draws and fires, the arrow piercing Matthew's chest. But it's not over. Oliver storms forward, rips the arrow free, and with a primal scream, drives it into Matthew's neck, again and again, until he's finally dead. Breathing heavily, broken but alive, Oliver stumbles to the radio setup. He lights the trap and fires an arrow into the sky. The explosion erupts like a flare. A boat appears on the horizon. Oliver is rescued, barely able to stand as he's pulled aboard. On the mainland, he's reunited with his family. Thea sobs as she hugs him. Moira is stunned, overwhelmed. Among the crowd stands someone new, Tommy Merlin, a family friend, who welcomes Oliver back with open arms. The episode ends with Oliver, now clean-cut and dressed in dark green, standing atop a rooftop in Starling City. Bow in hand, hood raised. Oliver Queen is no longer just a survivor. He is now the Green Arrow.